So I have recently heard the news that Dude Perfect are now co-owners of Burnley. Apparently, Dude Perfect has taken a minority investment in Burnley Football Club, which I think is fantastic. I think that it's a great move for Burnley and Dude Perfect, especially Burnley considering that Dude Perfect has a large and loyal fan base and they have an excellent demographic of people who would probably be interested in sport and would probably be interested in the Premier League. So this brings Burnley into a loyal fan base in America. It allows them to expand. I think it's fantastic for Dude Perfect. Overall, I think this is a really fantastic idea from both sets of groups. But to be honest, I actually didn't really believe it at first. I was like, Dude Perfect are investing in Burnley. So for you all, here is the little screen grab of Dude Perfect announcing that they are with Burnley now. Here is Garrett Hilbert and Cody Jones also on the NBC Sports show prior to the Man City game, talking about why they invested in Burnley. And here's an article from The Athletic. I'll also link the article in the description below. And the article pretty much just explains why Dude Perfect was interested in partnering with Burnley and talks about the ins and outs of that deal. But with that in mind, having heard the news, I figured I had to put Dude Perfect in Football Manager 2023. So I have them as part of Burnley Football Club. So here I have Tyler Toney, Garrett Hilbert, Cody Jones, Kobe Cotton, Corey Cotton, all part of the Dude Perfect team. I also just realized I made Garrett Hilbert English, so I made a mistake there. I apologize for that, Garrett Hilbert. But the five Dude Perfect members are all now part of Burnley Football Club. And what I've decided to do is put their entire net worth into Burnley Football Club, as well as an estimation of their YouTube income as a per year deal. And we're going to see whether or not they can bring Burnley to new heights. So from some estimates, I saw that Dude Perfect was estimated about $50 million. Now that is a little bit of an underestimation, I think. So if I stick in 50 million pounds here, I think that's probably about correct for Dude Perfect. So we are sticking a 50 million pound bank balance now for Burnley, which isn't really much higher than they had before, to be honest. It's about the same. And as far as income is concerned, I'm going to add an individual TV deal for Burnley. So Dude Perfect is bringing in like $25 million per year. Again, I think that might be an underestimation. So if I put in 25 million pounds, I think that will be okay. So I'm giving Burnley a 25 million pound annual income. So we are going to make this an annual income source, a fixed value that will be renewed every year. So with 50 million pounds in the bank balance and 25 million pounds coming in every season, we're going to find out how Burnley will do with Dude Perfect at the helm. And now, of course, this is Football Manager 2023, so Burnley do start off in the championship. So we're going to see with Dude Perfect, can they get into the Premier League and can they stay there? So let's start off by going forward one season and seeing how they're doing then. And just like in real life, Burnley are promoted, smashing through the championship, and we are going to see Burnley in the English Premier Division next season, just as we have in real life. So clearly they're doing pretty good with Dude Perfect at the helm. Let's look at the club details. How are we doing financially? Okay, we're still about financially. That's kind of what we're expecting, but wow, really solid transfer budget and wage budget going into new season. And if we look at the income, we still have that individual TV deal. Obviously, they're going to be bringing in a lot more money now that they're in the Premier League. And if we look at the staff, we still have our Dude Perfect crew there. They are going to be raking in the income. And with Vincent Company and Burnley at the helm, I think we're going to do pretty well. It looks like they also had a decent cup run last season. FA Cup fifth round, doing well in the Sky Bet Championship. How'd they do in the Caribou Cup? They were knocked out in the second round, but to Premier League opposition. So overall, a very successful season for Burnley, winning the Sky Bet Championship just like in real life, and making a decent FA Cup run. Well, with Burnley back in the Premier League, the question is, will they be able to stay there? I think we go 5 years into the future and see how they're doing then. And 5 years into the future in 2028, unfortunately, Burnley are back into the championship. So looking at the past few seasons, they obviously finished first. They stayed in the Premier Division, finished 17th, but they were relegated the following season. And then actually promoted by the playoffs, relegated again, and now we are back in the championship. So it looks like Burnley's been a bit of a yo-yo club since Dude Perfect took over. Looking at the club details, looking at their finances are fantastic. They're huge, 80 million now. They've made a lot of money since being in the EPL. They have a huge transfer budget, a good wage budget. I can see them going back up and continuing that yo-yo cycle. Looking at the income, they have so much more income. Still have that individual TV deal, but honestly, it pales in comparison at this point to better sponsorship money, better general sponsors, and good parachute payments. Overall, Burnley, despite going back down and yo-yoing, I think they are a much more successful club than they were at the start of this save. And honestly, looking at their squad, they look pretty good. Reece Nelson is an excellent signing, especially for Championship and Premier Division. I think Reece Nelson's a really good player. I can see why he's their star player. But it looks like they also have some other decent players. Alexis Vega looks pretty decent for this level. And I do like Josh Brownhill. I think he's on the team currently, and I think he's a very solid player. And looking at their transfer activity since Dude Perfect took over, they've definitely outlaid some pretty good transfers looking at season two here. Not much in season two, but season three spending 33.5 million, most of it on Kyle Walker Peters. After that, 25 million on Saeed Benrahma. That's an interesting signing, and then a few others as well from the looks of it. And 32.5 million on Yasser Asfaria. That's a really good signing. And let's go to the most recent season, 51 million spent, most of it on Emmanuel Dennis is a good signing. I don't know who Christian Bielik is. He's okay. Maybe he's not the best signing. Decent technicals and mentals. I think for this level he's good, but pace and acceleration are a bit of a worry. Well, that's 6 years or so into the future. Oh, it actually looks like they've also fired Vincent Company, or Vincent Company has left the club. Let's quickly look at that. So Vincent Company left. Oh, he resigned after they finished 20th in the EPL. That makes sense. And they've had some good managers, I think. Brendan Rodgers is a really interesting one. Julian Lopetegui. And now we're on Dan Petrescu. Some decent managers there. I'm surprised they didn't have a little more success with Lopetegui. All right, that's 2028 though. I think we go 15 years to the end of this simulation to 2037 and see how Burnley is doing at that point. Welcome back. We are in 2037, 15 years into the future, and Burnley are back in the English Premier Division, and it looks like they just stayed promoted. They are a Premier Division club barely staying in the EPL. Well done, Burnley. How have they done the past few seasons? And they have really continued to be a yo-yo club. So it looks like after we saw them, they were in the championship for a couple years, got promoted, got relegated, got promoted, got relegated, got promoted, got relegated. I mean, they're the definition of a yo-yo club. But and they actually just got promoted and they just stayed. So this will be the first season in a while that they didn't flip-flop divisions. Well done to Burnley, sort of establishing themselves as an English Premier League club at this point. So looking at some of their players, we have Tom Laskowski here. He is a regen. He actually looks really good. He has to have 147 current ability. That is very solid Premier Division level. Their striker is David Helm, who actually he's got a nice Holy Trinity, good technique, decent physicals. He's actually a really solid player for this level. Okay, so they have some pretty decent players. I can see this guy, okay. This guy is okay. But as far as their star players are concerned, I can see how those players are helping to keep them in the Premier Division. And overall, the club remains healthy financially. They have a solid transfer budget and wage budget. It looks like the income's really good. They still have that $25 million TV deal. They have a lot of general sponsors now. Maybe not as high as we saw at the 5-year mark. But overall, they still look like a very financially healthy club. And looking at transfer outlays, it doesn't look like we've had anything huge as far as transfer outlays are concerned. We're seeing some interesting ones, but it's all around the 50 to 60 million mark, just like we kind of saw previously. And it looks like we've gone through some interesting managers. Dan Petrescu was there for 3 years. Then Jabi Alonso coming in. That one's really interesting. Scott Parker coming in. He helping to get them promoted. Then we have Stuart Ferguson. Javi Gracia is an interesting one. And now we are with Richie Smallwood. So that is where we leave Burnley currently in the Premier Division, arguably where they belong. Since Dude Perfect took over the helm and put their entire net worth and income into Burnley, they've definitely been kind of a yo-yo club going back and forth from the Premier Division to the Championship, back to the Premier Division. But we leave them as a Premier Division club 15 years into the future. And overall, I would say that the Dude Perfect Burnley combination has definitely worked out pretty well in Football Manager 2023. So with that, thank you for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed. And if you're a Burnley fan, let me know what you think of Dude Perfect becoming co-owners and taking that minority investment into Burnley. I think that's really interesting and cool partnership. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you all are having a wonderful week, and I will see you all next time. Bye.